Okay guys, stop scrolling for a second and let me tell you about this. Because Game Science, the studio behind the legendary black myth Wukong, just dropped a bombshell that has sent the entire global gaming community into chaos. Black myth Zhong Kui, also known as Black myth Zhong Kui. And trust me, after digging through every piece of information, every leaked gameplay clip, I have to say this straight. That Wukong DLC rumor everyone has been waiting for all this time is, sadly, pretty much dead. Game Science is now pouring 100% of its passion into this brand new project. Yeah, it's definitely a little disappointing, but hold on, because let me explain why this so-called betrayal might actually be something worth forgiving, and maybe even getting twice as hyped for. First, let's talk about the main character, because this isn't some shining heroic figure like Sun Wukong. Zhong Kui is a legendary demon-slaying deity from Chinese folk religion, known for hunting down evil spirits. But his backstory is what I would call a classic East Asian tragedy, and I guarantee it's going to give you chills. According to legend, he was originally a brilliant scholar during the Tang Dynasty, highly educated and extremely talented, but because of his terrifying and unusual appearance, he was stripped of his title right in front of everyone. Humiliated and consumed by resentment, he took his own life and was later granted divine status by the Jade Emperor. See what I mean? The story starts with a heartbreaking twist right from the beginning, and Game Science clearly has no intention of turning it into an easygoing adventure. Instead, they're completely redefining the story through a deeply atmospheric dark fantasy style, setting it right on the fragile boundary between the underworld and the mortal realm, where the entire cycle of reincarnation has been shattered. And this is the part I love the most. The story isn't going to be as simple as see a demon, kill the demon. It's going to be much more philosophical, asking a disturbing question. Does darkness truly come from humanity's ambition and greed? Or does it come from the corruption of divine authority itself? Sounds a lot more mind-bending than your average action game, right? Now let's move on to the part every gamer has been waiting for, the gameplay, because the combat this time feels completely different from Wukong. If Sun Wukong is all about the agile, flashy movements of the magical staff, Zhong Kui delivers a completely different experience. Heavier, more grounded, more impactful, and much more intense combat. His main weapon is the demon-slaying sword, combined with powerful martial arts techniques, while the parry, sword deflection, and counter mechanics appear to have been significantly expanded. On top of that, the camera seems to stay much closer to the action, making every encounter feel incredibly tense. And that's not all, because this is also a game heavily inspired by Taoist mythology, meaning you'll have access to an enormous arsenal of supernatural abilities. Talismans that seal monsters, transforming sword techniques, spirit summons to assist you in battle, and especially a soul absorption mechanic that allows you to purge demons and unlock new skills. As for the monster and boss designs, they're absolutely wild. We're talking about grotesque combinations of human forms, bones, darkness, and elements of traditional East Asian horror, with attacks coming so rapidly that I'm pretty sure some of you are going to rage quit a few times before you get used to the combat. And here's the part I'm especially excited about, because these are some seriously unique gameplay details that many other review clips completely gloss over. First, there's a mechanic I'll temporarily call demon possession. Zhong Kui doesn't simply absorb the souls of demons to gain power. He can actually possess the bodies of smaller demons, completely transforming his combat abilities and movement style into something entirely different. If this works the way it appears to, I think the combat could have an insane amount of variety, while also opening up countless different playstyles and builds for players who love experimenting. Next, we have a boss body part destruction system, basically what you could call part destruction. During the fight against the massive boss known as Daibang Zhenjin, players can apparently break and completely destroy one side of the creature's shell. Personally, I'm betting this mechanic will be used throughout the entire game rather than being exclusive to that one boss, but we'll need more official information before I can say that with confidence. And finally, at the end of one leaked gameplay clip, there's a shot of Zhong Kui riding on the back of a massive tiger, which could hint at a mount system or perhaps some kind of companion mechanic within this dark, semi-open world. It's just a tiny detail, but it's already enough to make me come up with a dozen different theories. When it comes to the visuals and audio, I have to say Game Science isn't holding anything back. They're still sticking with Unreal Engine 5 and pushing the visual quality to another level. With Nanite's advanced geometry technology, the amount of detail on display is absolutely insane. Every torn piece of fabric and every rough texture on a monster's skin can be seen in incredible detail. Combined with Lumen's lighting system, the entire world becomes genuinely haunting, with flickering flames, eerie ghostly lights, and pools of blood reflecting the surrounding light in incredibly creepy ways. And the sound design is pure East Asian horror. They're using traditional instruments such as the erhu, bamboo flutes, ritual percussion, and bronze bells, blending them with environmental sounds to create an incredibly immersive atmosphere. My honest advice is, when you play this game, wear headphones, because I have a feeling the chills are going to hit several times harder. Now let's talk a little about what has been happening behind the scenes, because this is what makes me respect Game Science even more. Yang Chi, the studio's art director and co-founder, has publicly stated that they are committed to using traditional design methods rather than heavily relying on generative AI to speed up production. And what's even cooler is that Game Science has said they follow the working philosophy of legendary director Christopher Nolan, putting original artistic values and practical effects at the forefront, basically taking an art-first approach to make sure the game reaches the highest AAA visual quality possible. After hearing that, all I could say was, that's some serious confidence. But honestly, they have every right to be confident. Thanks to the massive success of Black Myth: Wukong, which has sold somewhere between 23 and 30 million copies, Game Science is now financially independent. That means they can spend years polishing this game without having to worry about investors pressuring them to launch early. And one detail that genuinely surprised me is that the plan to register the Black Myth, Zhong Kui intellectual property had actually been quietly prepared as far back as 4 years ago. So this isn't something they suddenly came up with recently. Now let's get to the practical stuff everyone is probably wondering about. When can we play it, and what platforms will it be on? The game is expected to release on PC and current generation consoles such as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS. And unfortunately, I have some bad news for those of you who prefer playing on mobile. There most likely won't be a mobile version this time. So get ready to experience this one on the big screen. The estimated file size is also expected to be pretty massive, potentially around 100 gigabytes. So if your storage is already packed, you might want to start planning ahead. As for the release date, based on the typical production cycle of a AAA game, and the fact that the studio already has a technological foundation from Wukong, I think the most realistic window would be sometime between 2027 and early 2028. So take your time getting hyped and don't get too impatient, because rushing your expectations could only lead to disappointment. As for the price, it's likely to be somewhere around the launch price of Black Myth: Wukong, so it's probably not going to be some ridiculously expensive game. So to wrap everything up, is Black Myth: Zhong Kui actually worth following from now? Personally, I think this could be one of the most promising East Asian Souls-like games of the next few years, because it's not simply swapping out the protagonist or giving us a new skin. It seems to be changing the fundamentals of the gameplay, the combat feel, and even the philosophical depth of the story. The biggest challenge is obvious. Zhong Kui is going to have to carry the enormous shadow of his predecessor, Wukong, which has already sold more than 30 million copies. That means the expectations from the community are going to be absolutely massive. But looking at the level of detail, passion, and genuine artistry that Game Science is putting into this project, I honestly believe they have what it takes to do it again. My advice right now is simple. Don't keep waiting around for a Wukong DLC anymore. Instead, put that hype toward Zhong Kui, follow the official updates closely, because I have a feeling that between now and launch, Game Science is going to drop plenty more bombshells that will keep the entire gaming community talking. But what do you think? After hearing everything I've just broken down, do you think this trade-off was worth it for Game Science? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel so you don't miss any of the latest updates on this upcoming masterpiece.